Hey, hello, this is Chef Orlando coming to you with Chef O Videos. Today, we're going to talk about knives. And once again, we're going to revisit knife handling and knife skills just a little bit. But first, I want to reintroduce the different knives that we would use in a production kitchen or in a culinary environment. Um, you may remember just earlier this week talked about the idea of mise en place. Mise en place refers to everything in its place. In every job that you will do, you would have to have the tools and you'd have to have the materials to do that job correctly, or basically to make the job easier for you. If I don't care if you're an electrician, if you're a mechanic, you're a carpenter, a painter, a chef. A chef's tools are his knives. Now, I'm gonna take the camera and I'm going to adjust it a little bit. Oh, also, I will demonstrate how to keep your knives sharp, because one of the things that if you remember earlier in the class, safety is paramount. The safest way to use a knife, say this again, the safest knife is a sharp knife. You may say, well, wait a minute, a sharp knife will cut you. Absolutely, a sharp knife will cut you. But if you use it correctly, you will never cut yourself. All right. If you remember, using this claw method, which I will demonstrate here again, because we're gonna need to know this as we go into the final week. Okay. Using this claw method, you will always make sure that you will not cut yourself. If you notice, this is like, works like a cage to protect that thumb. Your fingers are bent in, and that protects your fingers. You can take the knife right up against your fingers and you will never cut yourself. Now, I'm going to demonstrate to you how to sharpen a knife and to keep your tools in line, so when you get ready to use them, you don't have to worry about cutting yourself if you use them correctly. Because if the knife is dull, it can slide off of anything that you're cutting, and it can slide off right into your hand or something and cut you. So I'm gonna turn the camera towards my tools, which I'm very proud of. I love my tools. These are my tools. Okay, now this first one is a 10-inch chef knife. Now, don't use this a lot. If I'm cutting a large piece of meat or something that's has volume, I will use this knife. This one doesn't get used as much because it have to be used for a particular purpose. Everyday use would not happen with this knife, but it's always good to have in your toolbox. Okay, I actually have 3 chef knives. Okay, this one here is a Japanese-made chef knife. It's a very, very nice knife. This is a keeper that I'll plan to have for the rest of my life. It holds a blade wonderfully. We're going to be sharpening this one today. This one is a Wüsthof. This is a German-made knife. It's known for its balance. Pretty expensive, but when you're buying your tools, you want to make sure that you have tools that are capable of standing up to whatever demands you might have in a production kitchen. This is used as a chef knife. Now this one here, I mentioned to you in my other video, this knife was given to me by a student, and it happens to be one of meaning my wife and I's, favorite knife. It is very versatile. It's not real heavy, but it's balanced well, holds a blade very good. I mean, holding a blade means it doesn't have to be sharpened too often. Okay? As we go down the line, this is a bread knife. Bread knives are used for just what it says, cutting bread. However, you might get some chefs or cooks that work in the kitchen that might use this for a variety of things. But basically it has a flimsy blade, so that makes it not that great for really heavy cutting. All right, this is a bread knife. This one happens to be one of my oldest and favorite knives for cutting meat, fish, actually boning meat, fish, and chicken. This is called a boning knife. And if you notice, it's small, so it makes it so if you have to cut around bones, any bones, and which I will demonstrate later, this knife is perfect for it. I've had this knife almost 30 years. I love this knife. This is the last of a set. This knife is called a paring knife. Paring knives are used for small jobs. There is a technique called garde-manger. Garde-manger, it refers to doing really pretty food, making decorations on your food, little small jobs that require just a little bit of work. But this is a really good paring knife, probably one of the best ones I've ever had. And then once again, this is one that I'll keep forever. Also, very important to your knife's lives, making sure that they stay sharp, is what you call a steel. We talked about this before. The steel isn't for, let me turn my camera around so you can see me. All right. The steel isn't necessarily for sharpening your knife. As you'll see later, I have a sharpening stone, and my sharpening stones are actually soaking in water. You have a couple of different types of sharpening stones. Now, I have 3 of these. This is the rougher one, and what happens with this, you can use this in the beginning of your sharpening technique, or should I say procedure. This is the first one. This is your second one, and this is your third one. All of these are soaking in water for right now. You have to soak them in water for about an hour. Now, the other ones that you actually use oil. You could use oil in those maybe later on. I will. They're brand new. I bought them for class, and I bought them for demonstrations for my students. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to move some of these out of the way, and we're going to proceed to sharpen our tools. I want to go back to that word mise en place. It's going to come up quite a few times as we go forward, and I would like for my students to be aware of what that refers to. Mise en place is a very important word in a kitchen, in a professional kitchen, because that means that you basically have your stuff together. When I was a cook, I took great pride in my mise en place, meaning when it was time to serve, to go into service, everything was in its place. I could relax. There's nothing worse, even from an office standpoint, there's nothing worse than an unorganized desk, unorganized work area, unorganized kitchen. It just makes everything seem that more hectic. So, okay, we have the sharpening stone. The sharpening stone is, this one tends to be, actually, this side is the most coarse. All right, so this is the base of the sharpening stone. All right, so we put this down, and I'm going to show you here. All right, put this down like this. Let's see here. And we want to start sharpening. All right, we're going to see, we'll start with the Japanese knife, right? So when you sharpen, you have 4 fingers here. Always safety, always safety. Now, one of the things that I've noticed over the years, you have cooks and chefs that have their knives and they get a flat edge right here. Now, this edge serves a purpose. One second. One second. I'll be right with you. This edge serves a purpose. This is called the bow of the knife. B-O-W, bow of the knife, right? And so what it does, it makes it so if you don't want to, you don't have to take your knife. It never has to leave the board. Now you notice I'm keeping my fingers in. The bow of the knife never leaves the board. Now, you can do that, right? But this is safer. And that is the purpose of the round edge of the knife. A lot of cooks, when they, I will say, basically don't know about keeping their knife sharp, what they will do, they'll use this method. Okay? What that does, that wears down the bow of the knife. We don't want to do that. What we want to do is make it straight right across the knife, right across the sharpening stone, just like this. Now, I've been asked, well, chef, how long do you do this? I say, how sharp do you want your knife? All right? And how much time do you have? These are your tools. These are my tools. So I love having sharp knives. It's almost a sense of pride. Okay? So now, I'm not gonna stand here for the next hour and sharpen this knife, because I can spend an hour sharpening my knives, because I like making sure that they're nice and sharp. What I want to do, I wanted to show you that, and I will continue with this, because what happens is I do this probably 10-15 minutes. Okay, I leave this stone, I go to one of the other stones, which is a little more fine. It's just like sandpaper. If you were sanding something, you would start with a coarse sandpaper, and then as you graduate through the sandpapers, you go to a medium grade sandpaper, and that medium grade tends to take away all the grooves that you may have made with the coarse round. And then when you want to smooth it out, what you do, you go to a smoother stone. All right, and what that does, that kind of fine tunes your blade. All right, then once you've done that for probably a half hour to 40 minutes, or whatever length of time you tend to have, you come to your steel. All right, now, I mentioned in the other video that I always use my steel away from me. You see, chefs, they're good at this. I've never been good at this, because I feel more comfortable always doing everything with the knife where it's leaving my body, or leaving my hands, leaving anywhere that I could potentially cut myself. All right, so now, those are the knives. Okay, the chef knife is the most important knife that you will use in the kitchen. Now, I've worked with other chefs where they have used cleaver knives that they may use, or is a knife called a sitar, one that looks like an Aladdin sword. And I know chefs that will use that for everything. And it works. If it works for them, that's great. But I think it's very important that you use the appropriate tool for the appropriate job, because it actually, at the end of the day, it makes that job easier. So those are the tools. One more time, because it's going to come up on a quiz. You have your chef's knife. You have your 10-inch chef knife. Now, for reference, this is an 8-inch chef knife. Now, the beauty of this 8-inch chef knife, it's easy to control. Now, if you notice, I have 2 fingers and then I have 3 fingers. 2 fingers, 3 fingers. I have good control of my knife. I have a beautiful bow that I have on this knife. I had for a long time, so that means I've sharpened it correctly over the years. I have not lost the bow of the knife. It still works perfectly. We have the bread knife. Obvious, you cut bread with it. Okay. We have this wonderful boning knife, and I will show you how to use this. It's usually used on chicken and fish, because you can get all up in the nooks and crannies. All right. And this is your paring knife. Some cooks and chefs will use this for a lot of different things because it's easy to use because it's small. But it is generally for small jobs. You definitely are not going to try to butcher a side of a cow or a side of a pig with this knife. All right? So, those are your immediate tools, your knives. And what I've showed you today is the beginning of sharpening your knives. Now, I will go on with this, but I'm not going to stand here for an hour or two just sharpening knives, but I wanted to show you how I keep my tools sharpened. Also, I've explained to you the bow of the knife. The bow of the knife makes it so you can have your knife on the cutting board, on a cutting surface, and never actually have that knife leave that cutting surface. It's actually a very safe way to cut. All right? This is Chef O, and we just covered your tools, your knives, and the beginning of sharpening, and the bow of the knife. The bow of the knife. Thank you very much. I'll be talking to you again soon.